I think this is the most shares I've had of any stock, sitting with over 135,000 shares, so let's hope it doesn't flip on me. The first trade I took to start the week was the CPNG. Today's gap broke the breakout setup on the daily, cracking below the base, and the 20 MA sold off this morning and based at the lows. Not the cleanest intraday setup, also it was into some support on the daily, but wasn't a lot of other setups out there this morning, so gave this one a shot. I did get triggered in, but by the time it did, it was horrible timing with the market as it was bottoming, so for that reason I decided to reduce my position to half, which is what I do when I'm not sure. Unfortunately, it ended up popping and stopping me out on the back half, but less than a half an hour loss. I think I was a bit undersized because of the spread and moved on. Then came across a fraction based on the DHC. It's a penny stock that had a big sell-off this morning. It did a sell setup on the 5 and started basing for lower. Got in it on the breakdown, but ended up being a breakdown failure and flipped against me. So I flipped my position and caught some on the pop instead. Got out way too soon because it popped all the way back up to the highs, but reshorted some of it when it topped out. Was actually up over $1,200 on it at one point, but it flipped again. Spread opened up and ended up giving a chunk of it back. Then towards the end of the day, WE was selling off, failing a buy setup on the daily, jumped in it short and had a nice drop into the close, and that was my Monday. Tuesday, my first trade was DNA. This wasn't a gap, but it was breaking down on the daily into all-time lows. It's usually a very liquid stock with no spread, so I jumped in for a quick scalp, hoping it could get a drop. Normally, I wouldn't expect it to move much because it didn't gap and had no momentum, but the fact that it was breaking the all-time low and market was selling off strong today, so maybe I get some sort of follow through to the downside. But this ended up taking its sweet time, which was expected. I did accumulate a good amount of size on it. I think this is the most shares I've had of any stock, sitting with over 135,000 shares, so let's hope it doesn't flip on me. Because the problem if it flips is, yes, every penny against me is $1,300, but also with toss, sometimes the orders get held up and I have trouble getting out with big share sizes. So if this thing were to flip quickly against me, I may not get out timely because I have to end up breaking down my orders. So I was pretty much glued to my desk all day. Felt sketchy to even go take a piss. But while I was stuck in that, later in the afternoon, I found this ASTS sell setup on the 15. This also wasn't a gap. It just had a big sell off this morning, breaking down the island on the daily. So shorted it off the breakdown off that base. Nice start to the move, but as the market was bouncing, I decided to trail half to the offer. Then on the back half, trailed 15-minute bar by bar as it set up a 1-2-3. It seems like a tight trail, but because as we're towards the end of the day, I don't have the time to sit through a pullback and then wait for it to drop again to get to target, so I lowered my stop, which it did end up taking out. Back to the DNA, which I'm still in, hasn't budged since the morning, and I was hoping for at least another penny here because I did leg out some shares and got back in, but unfortunately ran out of time and ended up killing it. It could have been a really nice day if it did break down, but still made a few cents on it and just glad it behaved. Wednesday was a very choppy day in the market. The small list of favorites weren't really setting up for me. I just ended up doing a bunch of quick scalps, a lot of back and forth on my P&L because of the chop. But the first chart setup I did was the SWBI. Today's gap broke the daily uptrend, shorted it on the 5-minute off a base breakdown, but on that breakdown, it started to chop around again. It was hard to read, so I decided to trail it over the 15-minute bars high and got out. It did eventually end up getting to target, but I was okay with the exit because I just didn't like how it was trading. Then the WE from earlier this week was continuing to sell off today, so I decided to jump in it as it was breaking down again on the intraday. Was up almost 2 hours on it at one point, but couldn't get out timely on my exit and gave back over $500 on it in a blink. So just took it easy for the rest of the day, didn't want to give back more, so just took what I had and went home. Thursday had a good start. I went after RLMD, one of the big gappers this morning. Wasn't too sure which direction because it was gapping into a void way down there. So waited for the first minute bar to finish and looked lower, so shorted it. Now, because there's no reference points on the daily as it approached 2 Rs, I decided to trail half to the offer. Then I ended up messing up the rest of the trade. I saw the level 2 and it looked like it wanted to pop. All that volume came in, so I decided to take the rest. But then the spread opens up to 7 cents and I take slippage on the way out. Okay, fine, whatever. Slippage is part of the game. But then it drops right back down and gets halted. Motherfucker. This could have been a really nice play because it opens lower, starts to grind down, and drops another 40-something cents from my exit. That's like $1,500 I left on the table. So wasn't too happy about how that played out, but still glad I was able to make something out of it. Especially in the first 5 minutes, it's always nice to start the day up right out of the gate. because it relieves some of that pressure off, right? So then I found this RXT, which broke down on the daily, had a nice sell setup on the 5, got in it a little late, and got filled what I could and covered it when it dropped on volume. Then my next trade was the EIGR, another big gap like the RLMD into void. It had a 1, 2, 3 on the hourly, so I wanted to play it whichever direction it wanted to break, and for now it looked higher. So I got triggered in, I had to step away for a bit, so I put in a hard stop, and when I came back, I was glad to see that I was still in it and it was going in my favor. Decided to trail it 15-minute bar by bar, and unfortunately ran out of steam and took me out. Then the WE was continuing to fall apart on the daily. You know this has been on the carryover list all week. It was once again breaking down on the intraday, so got in it short. A little tough to get filled on, but made what I could on the drop. Then it went dead for the rest of the day. Nothing was moving much, so that was it. Friday, I was expecting another choppy day in the market from where we were opening at. Also, there weren't any 8 plus gaps I saw today. I did notice MRIN looking to come in. It's normally a low volume, low price stock that's gapping up on a lot of volume. Lately, these have been getting sold at the open, so jumped in a short with small share size for a quick scalp. Then LI, I believe, gapped down on earnings, gave a sell setup on the 1 minute. It did have a pretty strong sell-off, paired with a strong rally, so not sure how much this second drop will follow through, but got triggered in and didn't have a good feeling about it, so I just ended up killing it when it flipped, and good call this time because it would have stopped me out. Then took it easy until I spotted this NRBO trying to break out on the 2 minute. This had a pop yesterday and gapped up today, clearing some resistance. Barely got to it in time, but in it to win it. Was targeting the 200 on the hourly, so when it popped close to it, I decided to take half to lock some profits and hope for the best on the back half. Unfortunately, it wasn't looking too good, and my original plan was to kill the rest at break even, but in the moment, I decided to be more optimistic and give it more room to the 5-minute low, but it failed me, so didn't end up making much on it. Then the rest of the day went choppy on the market, not much to do, just try to catch some scalps here and there, and called it a week. So yeah, the market has been choppy, but at least this week there were some spots throughout the days where I can make some money. It's just when it slows down, it goes completely dead at times. Maybe it has something to do with the World Cup going on. I don't know. But hope you enjoyed another week of live trading. Hit that like button if you did. This is actually the last one of the year. Also, happy holidays to you and your loved ones. As always, I appreciate you for being here, and I hope to see you on the next one.